We are back on MorningLine. The Vice Mayor for the city of Nashville, Jim Schulman's with us. Always a pleasure. He is a nice man. He is a nice man.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, well, we'll take some calls. And let's see, we had Tom who called in first, and we'll take Tom. Tom, good morning. Hi, Tom.
Good morning, people.
Good morning.
Thank goodness for Phil Williams. Sounds like our governor's got some splaining to do.
Oh,
yeah. And what's going on with Nashville being busted up into 3 districts? You know, that concerns me more than anything. I was born here in January 1947. I grew up in Nashville, so I would appreciate your comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Real quick, if you haven't seen it, Phil Williams had a special report last night that talked about education, this plan that the governor is pushing with some of what will go into the curriculum, and whether or not it's the same history you were taught and whether or not it has a slant. I thought it raised some, I don't know if you saw the piece, some very, very, frankly to me, concerning points. And if you get a chance, go to newschannel5.com. Another excellent piece by Phil Williams really digging into this. And sometimes I see the stuff he finds, and it just infuriates me, some of the crap that frankly goes on. But, you know, go take a look at it, see what you think. As far as he's referring, it doesn't affect you guys much, but 3 congressional districts. The way the demographic and the change and the redistricting happens, from your perspective as vice mayor, what does that mean for the council, for you, the city?
Well, so obviously the state legislature decided to carve up Davidson County. We had 1 congressman representing the entire county, or the city, and Jim Cooper, who had obviously been in office for a while. Jim is a friend of mine, and I think he does a really good job. He sometimes fights both parties. I mean, and I think that's what you kind of want somebody to do.
And he's not running for re-election, and I don't know. I saw a statement. I think certainly the redistricting may have had part of an issue as to why he chose not to.
When they drew him into basically a conservative Republican district. That was a move by the state legislature to take away a Democratic seat. Obviously, there's a lot of moves around the country to try to increase the number of Republican congressmen so they can take back the House of Representatives. The problem is, whether you play the political game or not, it's nice to have 1 congressman that you can call, so you don't have to try to figure out who your congressperson is. The other thing is, obviously, Jim Cooper lives in Nashville. So if we're going to get 3 congressional folks. It's a little unclear. I know there's a number of people running in that 5th congressional seat. I think there's at least 4 Republicans running. You could end up with your congressman living way far away from Nashville. And so the question is, do we get the representation that we really do want in a major booming city like Nashville from 3 individuals who may or may not live here? Now, I know in that 5th congressional seat, I think there's 4 Republicans that have gotten in. I'm not sure if any Democrats have gotten in. They may have, but I think what you're seeing is that the seat is going to change from Democrat to Republican. The other thing I'll say is that, I mean, Davidson County is a blue city. It's a Democratic city, and we know that it votes Democratic. All our local officials, you know, when they have to choose a party, run Democratic, because that's what happens in Davidson County. Got a lot of young people moving here. I think it's becoming more Democratic. It's not going to be represented by a Democratic congressman, and some people may say that's great, but you know, I tend to be a little bit old-fashioned in the way I grew up, and it's like, shouldn't you have representation that's representing the basic interest of the people that you represent? But by splitting it up, you're going to end up most likely with 3 Republican congressmen representing a city that is Democratic.
Yeah, I mean, this happens in a lot. It's the gerrymandering. I'll say this, and I think you're right. I think they're doing this short term. It's going to benefit. But you just hit on something. The demographic is changing. More people moving here. Yes, you hear about, there's some folks that are leaving places like California that are more conservative that are coming here, but there's a lot of people coming with Oracle and likes that are the other way. And I think the day may come where Republicans, when they did this now, thought, okay, good, we're going to pick up a seat. It's going to turn around and bite them in the butt within the next decade. Because all of a sudden, you're going to have a much larger populace split into 3 groups, and there's going to be a much different voting circle. Look, the way I view it, the Republicans truly hold power in this state. I can't imagine it getting much more than this. The worm will turn eventually.
Well,
as it always does with politics all the way. There was a time Democrats ruled it and it turned. It's going to turn. Republicans can't get any more powerful than they are in the state right now, in my opinion. And this redistricting is going to turn around and bite the Republicans within the next decade. And that's my prediction.
We'll see the demographics, but I think there may be some truth to that.
Yep. So short-term gains, long-term, I'm not sure it's going to work out so great. Let's go to Ann. Ann, good morning. Hi, Ann.
Good morning. And since it's open night tonight, I've condensed my question for Mr. Shulman this morning, so I hope this makes sense. I'm very aware of what direct service organizations do for the homeless here in Nashville, but I'm not so sure our council does. So my question to Jim this morning is, what is your opinion of what rhetoric is on the Metro website that the Homeless Impact Division and Reclaim Brookmead has on the Metro website right now, and the impact those comments will have on direct service organizations and the relationship that they have with the community that they serve. And I mean organizations like Open Table as one example, and the community and the impact that the comments that are on Metro's website right now is going to have on the impact that those organizations and they serve and have served for the last 20 or 30 years, when our city has not been doing anything to serve those needs. But organizations like Open Table has been. And my second comment is on our wonderful license plate readers, and I'm just a little old housewife. But I did the research when those first came around 2 years ago, and I could have told Metro Council that the studies showed that in dense fog, that in the mountain areas, that in white communities is where they were ineffective. They were used by white communities to solve crimes after they were committed. Nick Barris is right. They are ineffective. They are redundant to what Metro already has in their cars and on their vests. They are a waste of money. Metro Council is finding out right now they have invested in something that is ineffective, and now they're having to dump more money into it. And I'd like his comment on that.
Ann, thank you. I'll tell you what, license plate readers, to me, like I said, I was ambivalent, and Ann actually makes some points. I think she swayed me more about saying, well, why bother? But I mean, it's like the flavor of the week, flavor of the month, whatever. It's the hot thing, and people think, oh, crime, and maybe they don't research it the way Ann did, and they think, oh, it's a great thing. You know, and who knows, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, once you had them and you paid for it, like the red light cameras, a lot of communities are saying, you know what, it's not worth it, let's get rid of them. I don't know. It's just people jump on stuff.
I think Ann should run for office. She's very sharp and very smart, and does her homework. On the homelessness issue, I've heard a little bit about some of the stuff that's going on.
I was going to ask her, what comments is she talking about?
Well, I had read something about some comments that may have shown up. Reclaim Brookmead Park is the group that is trying to take back Brookmead Park over in West Nashville off of Charlotte. Metro Homeless Impact Division is the group that tries to figure out, what they're going to do. They're responsible for the Jefferson Street Bridge, and for the recent clearing of the encampment. Look, and I spoke to the Bellevue Exchange Club last night. And as I was talking, the speech morphed into, this is an issue that there are lots of opinions on. You talk about license plate readers. Right. Homelessness, you've got What I would say is a lot of different groups that are involved in trying to figure out what to do. Okay, everything from the mayor's office to the council to the coordination of care committee to the homelessness planning council to the Metro Homeless Impact Division. There are lots of groups out there. That's just the government part of it. And then you've got a number of groups, like Ann mentioned, Open Table Nashville. You've got the Contributor out there working. You've got the Salvation Army. You've got the Mission. You've got Room in the Inn. You've got all these groups out there doing stuff. And we can't seem to focus in on a centralized plan. Now, as soon as I said that, Homelessness Planning Council is going to we have a plan, we have a strategic plan. That's good. I'm talking more about a specific operational plan to try to figure out how you deal with encampments, how you find places for people to go. I mean, in February it was freezing. The whole month was cold. And the shelter, we had an overflow shelter opened up by the Metro Social Services to take people in. They did an exceptional job. But we did have some individuals that, you know, got into fights out there, had to be moved to different places. We do this every year. And the best I can tell you on this one is there is some momentum going on behind this thing, this issue right now. Every so often we run into a major bump in the road, but I think there is a commitment by a number of people in this community to try to come up with an overall plan. Not real generic, but more specific in terms of how are we going to deal with this? Other cities have done this as well. Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas. Other cities are working on this and trying to come up with a plan. I think what Ann is talking about is this internal fighting that goes on between groups. It's time to everybody to, you know, to work together and try to figure out if we can come up with a coordinated plan.
I've been saying it for a long time, and it's just one of those things where there never seems to be a clear solution. We'll take a break.
And I'll go back to LPRs after the break if you want and talk about Ann's question on that one.
Yeah, we can do that, and we've got some other phone calls and the like. So more with the Vice Mayor right after this.
This is a Storm 5 weather update. For weather on the go, download the Storm Shield app.